In this video, we are breaking down the arrangement of Ice in My Eyes by WELKER so you can take the principles and techniques that this producer is using and use them in your own tracks to make bangers that go off on the dance floor. Now, this track right here is amazing because not only is it super simple, but there are these kind of cool tactical things that the producer is doing that is at the same time, it's simple but sophisticated. So just in case you haven't heard the track, let me show you what the track sounds like, and then we'll dive in. But check it out.
Think you step into an steady domain, pain, my veins rage in my brain, break your chain. Ice in my eyes, fire in my chest, I'm gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill to kill your dress.
And then later with the synth, a huge moment that one was. But
you think you step into an steady domain, pain, my veins rage in my brain, break your chain. Ice in my eyes, fire in my chest, I'm gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the
so arrangement is the story of the entire track. And that story is driven by two main characters. You've got the hooks, things like vocals and sound design. And this track has both. It has that vocal and the synth that we just played. And also the groove. The groove are the drums and the bass that get people dancing. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to map out the story of how the hooks and groove develop over time in this track. You can download the MIDI map. The link is in the description. So let's get started. So this track is a truly flawless HD2 formula. An HD2 formula is just the simple, it's just my name for the kind of standard tech house format where you've got your kind of intro, you got your bass drop where you introduce the bass line, you've got your first break, usually where you introduce the main hook, but in this case, the hook's kind of introduced back over here. And then you've got your first main drop. Very standard format. It's going to be A section vocal, B section sound design. That's exactly what's going on here. You've got your main break and build, and then you've got your second drop. And in this case, something cool happens here. Kind of reminds me of what Diet Coke is doing, and several other kind of tracks. But it's really cool moments right here with the open bass, and then we'll cover that. And then there's just an outro here. But yeah, so hook HD2 would just be intro, bass drop, break 1, hook drop 1. Main break and build, hook drop 2. Hook drop just means you're putting the hooks over the groove, and then finally outro. And so because of that, what we're going to do is we're just going to follow this cheat sheet just to see kind of the sub things that happen within those sections that are recommended to do. Like these aren't necessarily rules. These are just kind of patterns that keep popping up. You could take this further. Like these are kind of the demands of the listener. Like when you have top DJs playing tracks out in front of thousands, tens of thousands, maybe sometimes hundreds of thousands of people over the course of a year, millions of people, then the listener is going to kind of beat IDs or work in progress tracks that are being played out or just tracks in general into a certain kind of pattern. The crowd is going to respond to certain moments. They're not going to respond to certain moments. And over time, there's just going to be certain patterns. And this just way of presenting an idea, the HD2 formula here, is just a extremely efficient way of storytelling with an idea that is very accessible to the crowd, and it seems to be what the crowd selects over many years. This simple format of telling a story, much like a 3-act structure in a movie, it creates a certain kind of emotional journey, and that's what kind of happens here with the HD2 formula for the listener. And this track is really flawless in its execution. There is one thing that I'll mention for kind of up and coming producers to just be slightly careful of, but we'll cover that anyway. And so we'll just kind of create MIDI clips of what we're going to do here, and you can download the MIDI map, of course, in the description below. But we're just going to see what boxes they're checking, so you can kind of take away these ideas as well. So let's start from the beginning and let's see what's going on. All right, so right away, we're getting some drums. I'll just call this a beat. And then we're going to have a bass. Now, right away, these are just going to be high-passed. So we'll just do HP. There we go. We'll color this red. Okay, cool. Okay. Now, just some things going on here. Obviously, we've just got a high-pass beat and got a high-pass bass. Some kind of cool textural stuff. Listen to the alternating claps, kind of breathing the clap so you get this kind of in-out feel. That little extended little extra reverb on the second clap. Also that kind of vocal texture in the background. All right, cool. And so we're coming up on something important in the intro, but what are we supposed to do in the intro? Just keep it simple for the DJs. Intros and outros are for DJs, not producers. Just don't get in their way of being able to mix into your track. It's really that simple. And so here we have some beats. He also has a high-pass bass. I'd call that an identifier for the track. Also the vocal texture in there. The splash hats, the kind of alternating clap. Unique thing, I would say that would be the vocal texture right there, but this is what we're coming up on right here. Right here with the asterisks, that just means, that was a hard word to say, but that just means that this is optional, all right? But so motif, not really a motif. A section, B section. So is he going high pass into full kick? No. So there's not really an A section, B section. But we are coming up on the intro hook to you. So if we play this right here, you hear this reverse reverb going into something. So this typically is going to be where you play something that just signals in a brief way what the main hook is. And then boom, you drop the bass line. So you can hear how that works right here. Very simple. This is an intro, not a big deal, but this is a very common pattern. There you go. And then almost that kind of like dissip style glitch there at the end. But we have, and other people do it, of course, too. It just makes me think of dissip. So this is just going to be Vox, and we will then do a reverse. So I'm just going to effects up, and this is just a little bit of a reverse right there. So we'll just do rev Vox up, and we'll color this brown for my color for effects. We've got this little vocal right here, and we can also see there's like a little bit of an edit. And so an edit is just going to be where you take out the low end in some way. There's not really any low end here, but you can see that the kick goes away right here, just to make that space, that extra moment for the vocal, and also just reset the groove going into the bass drop right here. Also, we'll just kind of keep track of the higher level sections of the HD2 formula. So this right here is just going to be intro. And so let's just do this. So we'll go intro. Awesome. So we'll color that brown, and then here we go.
Do you think you step into unsteady domain? Do you think you step into unsteady domain? Do you think you step into unsteady domain?
Okay, cool. And so now we're getting into the bass drop right here. So we'll just do bass drop. And what's the point of the bass drop? This is kind of where the storytelling of a track begins a little bit, because here we're going to start to introduce one of the most important characters of the track, which is the groove. And so, here we introduce beats, and then here we introduce the full groove, so the drums and the bass line. But this is where you start kind of teaching people how to move and groove to the track before you start throwing hooks on top. Now, that's typically the case, but you can hear that clearly there's hooks on top of here, which is just the main kind of vocal on top. And so that's the one cautionary thing I would say for especially up-and-coming producers is, like, if you throw hooks on top of when your bass line comes in, some DJs just simply might not play the track because it, to be blunt, it could be a pain in the ass to mix it in. Because if DJs like to mix in through here and there's a hook on top and then you have a previous hook in another track, it could just cause trouble. Now, of course, DJs are more creative and adaptable than that, but it is true. Like, it could, if you just kept this pretty simple, then going into the introduce the hooks in the break, that would be a little more straightforward way of going about it. This is just a more creative thing, but I just wanted to point that out. But no, doesn't matter. This is a top track right now, and it's badass, so let's keep going. So let's get rid of this here, and let's get rid of this here. And again, like, that's why these are, they're not rules. They're just kind of like, little guidelines, little safety guidelines, like don't play with, a lighter by the gas station because it might explode type of thing, but, someone might do it anyway. All right, here we go. Now, something that's cool about this vocal that I want to point out, maybe I'll just do it in the MIDI clip itself, is I'm going to chop out these little things, because this is kind of cool, because the phrasing here is slowed down by half, and then the phrasing picks up in the break. And I thought that was really an interesting way of kind of using a hook. So a lot of times when producers are making music, they have their hooks and they're like, man, what do I do with them? But this and like if I use them too much, is that quote too much? But this is a cool technique you can take away right now, where if you have a vocal that could maybe be split into 4 bars, it doesn't even matter if it is. There's 2 bars or whatever. Like you could just kind of slow down the presentation of the vocal, because when you get in the break over here, you'll hear that it's not spaced anymore. Right? So this is just a technique you can use on hooks to use them back to back. So here it's being used in the bass drop. Here it's going to be used in the break to make it, quote, interesting, right? Because producers want to know how to make things interesting. Well, here's a technique. So here's it spaced. So this is spacing of the hook. And then here's your pause. Now, one interesting thing here too, let me get back to that, but if I play this here in the break, right, so you can hear there's no spacing in the vocal anymore. And so again, that is a technique you can use to have back-to-back hooks of the same hook, just creating them interesting. So there's a slight evolution, a slight development. But one other thing I wanted to point out here is notice this call response between the vocal phrase and the bass line. So when the vocal is playing right here, the bass is flat, meaning that the melody is not moving around. But then as soon as we get to that space in the vocal, that little gap, then the bass moves around. It has a little bit of a note. And then you can even talk about nested call response, because there's a call response in the bass phrasing itself. So when we go from this phrase to this phrase, it's slightly different. So check this out. Even right off the bat, there's some really interesting things that you could take away for your own tracks that just specifically have to do with the interaction of the hooks and the grooves. So check it out. Ba-na-na-na-na. Bass climbs up, bass climbs down. Here we get another phrase of the vocal. Da-na-na-na. Now there's also the drums come into play with this kind of call response as well, because now we have these 4 kicks right here. So these first 4, is this 2 bars or 4? These first 4 bars have so many lessons in it that you could use to take away in terms of interaction between the vocals, the drums, spacing of the vocals. So even within the vocals themselves, how do I keep them interesting? So many lessons just off the bat, even within the first 4 bars. But let's keep on going. I see my eyes fight, my chest is gonna rest. Let's believe I'm blessed with this skill, can you press stress? And then right here, right, this just kind of repeats. Do the vocals, is this an 8-bar phrase? Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So obviously because they're spacing it out here. And so this vocal is different than what came before. But what I wanted to point out is, even if we just look at the higher level, more abstract pattern, meaning we just move away from the lyrics themselves. And we just look at, here's vocal and then bass kind of riff, vocal, bass riff, different bass riff, vocal, bass riff, same as before, vocal, same bass riff as before. So the call response. And then here in the drums, so that would be kind of a 4-bar pattern, right? So we have vocal 1, bass 1, vocal 2, bass 2, vocal, and then bass 1, vocal, bass 2. So that kind of repeats, again, the lyrics here separate the vocal phrases themselves. But if we look at the drum phrasing, here we have like 4 kicks at the 4, and then we have an edit at the 8. So right away, we have this kind of 8-bar phrasing across all these different things. Now, again, the vocal is changing lyrics across the full 8 bars, so you can even say there's like an 8-bar phrasing there. But I just wanted to show you that here's this 4-bar pattern. Here's this 4-bar pattern again if we ignore the lyrics. And then we have this kind of 8-bar level up here. Very cool. All right, so then going into the second 8 bars. Okay, and so what we're looking at again is the storytelling of the hooks and grooves. So here we have a little development of the, the drums themselves. So we have a hat lift. And so let's go ahead and put this in here. And this is just, a little bit more of a hat that has a little bit of a tail. It's got a cool sound. It's not like a 909. It's kind of, to me, sounds a little bit more organic. But so there you go. You got your tight hat right there. And then here you just got a little bit of a hat lift. Ooh, kind of a cool panning on that as well. Just real subtle. Very cool. All right. And then a little bit of a switch up here too, because here we have the high pass with the 4 kicks. I don't think we have the 4 kicks right here though. So the kick just goes away, and then here we get the 4 kicks. Okay, cool. So let's come back over the cheat sheet and see what's going on. The bass drop is where we introduce the bass line and only the bass line. We want to teach people how to move, groove, and dance to the track before we throw the hooks on top. Again, this track is, quote, breaking that rule or bending that rule. The Picasso quote, learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. But that is, so typically what you do is you introduce a bass line and you keep this hook separate because you introduce the hooks later on in the break and then bring them over the hook drops, all right? But anyway, so what do we have? We have the bass line here, A section, B section, a little bit just with the hook, the hat lift right there. And then, so A section groove, no. So there's a slightly different A section, B section. In the B section, are they foreshadowing to break one? No, they're not. There's nothing that comes up. So that's just an optional one. And then corresponding drum lift with the bass. No, punks, you're kidding. Okay, so just keeping it really simple, but we do have a B section lift, and that's going to be the hat lift right there. So there we go. And so the one main difference here is that they are bringing in the hooks in the bass drop. But again, the interesting thing there is the spacing of it out. All right, so now we're in the bass drop. So now we're moving from the bass drop into break one. So what do we do in break one? Break one is where you take the groove in some way, and then you introduce the hooks. So here they're just bringing the hooks from the bass drop into break one, but of course they're doing the full presentation without the spacing in the break. And so let's see what we have to do here. So in the break, what do? We give them a break, right? That just means take the low end away in some way so they stop kind of dancing, they start kind of shuffling. And so that could be a high pass, that could be just removing the kick, that could be removing the kick and the bass, but are they giving them a break? Let's see. Absolutely. All right, so also slowing it down a little bit. Let's see. So no hat either. So really slowing it down. We don't have that offbeat there. So you're just getting beats. Okay, so let's duplicate this over and we'll just do HP. We'll do HP on this as well. And HP just stands for high pass. So we've got the high pass, and that is what's stopping people from dancing, you could say. We want to keep the groove alive in some way. That just means have something rhythmic going, you know, like, and so here they're just continuing with the high pass. They have the bass, they have the kick, they have the clap. And so we're definitely keeping the groove alive right there. Are they introducing the main thing? They're not introducing the main thing, but I'll just change this to hitting them or give them, probably be a nicer way to put it, give them the main thing. And they are definitely giving them the main thing. And so, okay, cool. So once we do these things, we give them a break, keeping the groove going because people are still kind of learning and kind of shuffling and learning the how to dance. Give them the main thing, so presenting the main hook that's going to come in the drop. Then we can start to build tension towards that drop. All right, so let's check this out. Here we go. Okay, cool. One thing you could hear right there, other than the full hook playing, is that the bass opens on the filter. There we go. Slowly. Okay, so this is just going to be break one. Cool. And what else is going on here? So we got the 4 kicks. Okay, a little bit of a sweep, a little bit of an up effect right here. So we'll just go like this. So just go like this. A sweep up and down. Okay. Just really simple white noise on these things. So up and down there. Now, if you're interested in like what he's doing or what they're doing on this vocal, it's just like a beat repeat type of plugin. Give me 1 sec. I'll show you that real quick. All right. Actually, I could just show on this video itself. So, for example, if I just take this vocal, or not this video, but this vocal. Okay, so if we just take something like this and get like I have this one thing. This is very easy to make. Like a ton of people have made these too. It's just taking the beat repeat plugin from Ableton and just macroing it so you can hit all the random. So for example, if we take this Evolution of Sound ZenWorld vocal,
bounce to the beat, up and down the street.
Cool. And just throw a beat repeat. This is just a little rack that I made, and it'll be, you can download this too. So here we have just a beat repeat thing. And so if we just, the whole point is just to macro everything in the beat repeat thing, the plugin to here. That way, so for example, if I hit all the map, there you go, there's all the mapping. And then that just allows me to hit random and then just moves this thing around. And so if I close this down, just so it looks better, and we play with this. Now, let me just bring it down on the mix mode. Okay, now right now I have it on a mix mode so that when it's a blend between the kind of like the full vocal and the glitches, but if I go like halfway through, when the glitches happen, the vocal won't play. If I go all the way up, it's just the glitches. And so what I could do now, if I have it just on the glitch mode, I could just Command B this, and this will just bounce down the glitches. I could turn this on, and I can kind of decide, like there's so many ways you could do this. You could use the take lanes or whatever, but at least like simply, I just have all the glitches. And if I wanted to just kind of like randomly, just for now, just for the sake of demonstration, just kind of do something like this, now I can create this kind of like crazy vocal. Oh, hold up. I need to turn this off. So here we go. So now it gets kind of like make a composite of this kind of glitch vocal.
Bounce to the beat, up and down the street.
See, something like that. All right. And so what I've done is I've just put the glitch rack right here on this channel. So if you want to download it with the MIDI map, you certainly can. All right. So here we go. At least keep going. Totally forgot where we were, but we're just going to get right back into the break. So we've got that glitchy stuff. My veins rage and my body make it change. Ice in my eyes, fire in my chest, I'm gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with this feeling. Quest stress. All right, this is amazing. So when we get into the break or the build now, so this is kind of the break where we just kind of establish the main hook in a big way. So this is like give them the main thing, which is going to be the vocal. But here, this is going to be build. And so build tension, which is going to be rep, roll, rise, grow. Okay. And so when you think tension, just think rep, roll, rise, grow, rep, roll, rise, grow, like dodgeball, dodge, duck, dip, dive, you know, and I think he says dodge again, but rep, roll, rise, grow. So hook repetition, snare roll, kick roll, crash roll, whatever, rise, something's going up, white noise, tonal riser, bass cutoff is going up, whatever, grow, delay, reverb, endless smile, all that stuff. This is the menu of building tension. All these things build tension. You don't have to use all of them, but they all just kind of signal, directional energy. So here we go. If we play this. We can hear what he's doing, right, to build tension. So number one, there's no more drums, so that goes away. That immediately removing the anchor. If you remove the kick, that's really the anchor of the track that creates a lot of tension. You remove the drums, even more tension. Then here we just have the bass just continuing to open. We have a rep on the vocal. So it's repping about right here. So we'll just put like rep, and I'll just kind of like loop this out. Oh, it's already looped. Is that right? Okay, cool. So we'll just go like that. If it'll loop, why is it? There we go. All right. So. Okay, we've got a tonal riser up, so I'm just going to get rid of that. We'll just do tonal up. There'll probably be some white noise as well, but for now we know tonal up. So here's our riser, here's our rep. What else? Is there a snare roll? You can hear a snare roll coming up there, so just low passing up, so snare roll. Awesome, let's go like this, and then we'll just go like that. Cool. And this is just LP up for low pass. Okay, you can hear growing on the vocal. So this is rep and grows. So you can hear a delay on there that's expanding, probably also a reverb. Okay, and then, man, then it goes. So here is what I usually would call like a pipo. Pipo is where you have that building pattern. Well, pipo stands for pattern interrupt pay off, PIPO, pattern interrupt pay off. And this is where you have that building pattern. That pattern gets interrupted. And when a building pattern gets interrupted, everyone pays attention because it's like you have all this dopamine and then just stops. And you're like, what's going on? And then you hit them with the main thing and then you explode into the drop. And that's a pattern that we will never get sick of because it just hijacks the brain. But here, that's very understated because yes, there's a building pattern and it stops, but a big kind of payoff like ice in my eyes is not being delivered right there. It's just kind of calming down, but you do get that cool kind of bass line and then you get into the drop, which gives you the vocal. And now that I think about it, that makes a lot more sense because if you're going to have a vocal right here and then go into a vocal, that's going to take away from the impact of going into the vocal and the drop. So having nothing right here allows you to land into that drop in a good. So that's a clever thing. I'm going to write some things down up at the top here, like maybe under this actually. So first four bars equals gold in terms of teaching, and then also hold back on pipo if the star hook, star vox in drop. So that's kind of the idea right there. All right, just taking away techniques, taking away little principles, and there are some that we can look at the end, but let's keep going. So, okay, so that all of this goes away, the riser, all this, vocal kind of goes away too, a little bit of delay there, but okay, sweet. Cool. And I wrote bass drop. Cool. So now we're going into the hook drop. This is where the hooks and the groove come together, typically for the first time. But again, since we already had the hooks kind of with the bass drop, it's not like the full hook though. Again, it's spaced. It's kind of like little fragments of the hook over time. It is the full thing, but it's just presented as fragments over time. Here, we're finally getting the full hook in its all its glory. And so we're still getting that hook payoff. That's the key. The reason why this isn't quite breaking a rule but bending a rule is that if you gave the vocal or they gave the vocal away in the bass drop, then you're not really giving anything away. You're not really giving a payoff for the hook in the drop. But here, since this is kind of fragmented, here we get the full thing. So we're introduced to the full phrase without the spaces. Then here, those finally come together. The groove that was introduced here in the bass drop and then the hook that was introduced in the break, they come together in hook drop one, and here we get it in full, which is really cool. So, and that's the whole point. That's like the math of this, right? So we get the groove here plus the hook here equals the hook drop right there, which is hooks over groove. So perfect. Love that. Love that. Let me play that moment right there where he just cuts the bass momentarily, which I think is funny. I don't know if they're doing this ironically, but so many tracks right now are having the bass open right here. And then so they're taking the bass away. So the complete opposite of what the standard kind of practice is right there. So I thought that as soon as I heard that for the first time, I started laughing. All right, cool. So that's a really cool moment. So we're getting the beat, we're getting the bass, we're getting the hooks. This is full, not spaced. So the full hook payoff, that's what we get here. And that is awesome. So let's head back over the cheat sheet. Let's see what's going on. All right, so break one. Building tension, we saw the rep, we saw the roll. The rep is the vocal, roll is the snare roll, rise is the white noise riser, and the grow. So we're getting all four of them there. So that's amazing. Pipo, we broke that down. Pattern interrupt, pay off. So they are doing a pattern interrupt. They're just not quite paying off because they're holding it. They're holding the real payoff for that drop when the vocal comes in over the drop. But I'll check that off because they are interrupting the pattern. They're just being clever or strategic about holding back on that kind of payoff vocal. Atmosphere, entry, I'm just going to kind of move on. Those are just kind of like little flourishes, but they're hitting the most important stuff for sure. And then hook drop. This is where the hooks and groove come together for the first time. This is where the real story begins. If we think about the hooks and the groove or arrangement as storytelling of the hooks and the groove, here was where we introduced the groove character. Here we introduced the hook character. Now they're coming together So this is where the real story of those two kind of come together. And so let's see what we need to do here. Hooks over groove. Just like always, I'm going to highlight this because this is the most important. This is what the whole track is about. Like, what hooks do you have? What groove do you have? And then it's about the storytelling over time through the arrangement. Big hook, big groove, simple story all day. So this is the HG1 equation that we were just talking about, where bass drop, the groove from the bass drop comes together with the hook and break one. They come together in HG1. So we're getting that. This is a flawless example of that. Okay, so now we're getting into A section, B section. Let's see if we have clean A section, B section in this track, which we do. Again, this is an amazing, very principled track, perfect layout. So if anyone wants to use this as a reference, I highly recommend it.
You think you step into an unsteady domain, pain, my veins rage, in my brain breaking chain. I see my eyes fire, in my chest I gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill of getting press stress. You think you step into an unsteady domain, pain, my veins rage, in my brain breaking chain. I see my eyes fire, in my chest I gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill of getting press stress. You think you step into an unsteady domain.
Okay, boom, we're getting the hat lift. Same structure as before in the bass drop. Right here, we got the kind of just the closed hat. Hat lift in the second 8. Okay, closed hat. Hat lift in the second 8. Right, there's this quote from this book. I forgot who said it. I forgot what book it is, but it doesn't matter. Is that screenwriting in like movies? Screenwriting is structure, and arrangement is structure. You're just going to see like when a track is really well arranged, it's just the structure that is nailed. And so this is a good example of structure. You're getting a structural lift here. So there we go. And that's all you need. So this is something that producers really worry about. Like, hey, I have this vocal. If I just play it again, is that going to be too much? Well, that's happening here. This is a top track, amazing track. And so the question is, like, what are they doing, right? When producers have questions with arrangement, like what should I do? Like really the answer to all questions, which is the reason why I break down these tracks, is all you have to do is look, or I guess listen in our case, but let's go to look. All you have to do is look. All you have to do is listen to tracks, and like when I'm helping producers in loop to label or privately or whatever, then I just, by doing breakdowns like this, I just have so many examples in my head of what could happen at any given time. And it makes it a lot easier for me to just like come up with ideas because I just pull on the reservoir, But, so for example, if someone's worried about if I just keep on playing the vocal, is that going to be too repetitive, Well, are you using a lift? Right? One way to just make it really easy to just play the vocal again is to have a lift. Now, there's other things going on. For example, this edit right here, it just breaks up that 8 bars, so it allows the next 8 bars to reset. But then you get into the next 8 bars, you get the same vocal, but you get the lift here. And then at the end, you're usually going to do something like a bigger edit here. You can see the hierarchy of edits. That is going to lead you to something else. So I'm curious if there's any kind of other transition signals that happen here that signal to the listener, we are going to move into a different section of the track. So that's something else you could do. But yes, absolutely, you can repeat a vocal, but there's other things that you can do to make it interesting. 1, just very simply edit, so you reset the next 8 bars. 2, lift, so you get that, lift in the energy a little bit. Here's just a very simple hat. 3 is just, are we going to kind of signal that we're going to be moving somewhere else? So is there some kind of transition signal that happens? So let's see.
Rage in my brain breaking chain. I see my eyes fire, in my chest I gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill of getting press stress. You think you step into an unsteady domain, pain, my veins rage in my brain breaking chain. I see my eyes fire, in my chest I gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill of getting press stress.
Cool. And so not too many no transition at all. Just a little edit, a little bit of reverse vocal in there, and then we're going to get into the B section. So this is HG1A, and in best case scenario, an A section, or if you have A section, B section, you can boil it down to one word, right? What is the attentional focus for the listener? And that is going to be the vocal. So Vox, there we go. So now we're going to come over to the B section, and let's see what they are doing in the B section. Nice. And then we're going to get a little bit of an elevation here. And an elevation is just, for me, a sectional lift. So here you're lifting within the A section. Here we're going to a B section, so it's a different section of the track, but we're lifting the energy. And so I tend to call those elevations, just to be precise. So this is just going to be a ride. So we'll just put this in here. There we go. Just to have a nice little language. So I'm going to do kind of another vocal channel here. So this will be more glitchy. And this is just going to be a little bit of a texture. So maybe actually what I'll do is I'll just do this like Vox text off of the main vocal, but it is more of a texture right now. And we are getting the, I don't know why I said it like that, but that's okay. And then we're going to go to the synth right here. Very simple. Dun, 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 dun. And of course, the synth is just kind of following the bass. So we have the synth follows bass. Kind of a cool, phasey sound on this one. Like, so a little bit of edit right there. So again, this is going to repeat. What are they doing right here? I don't hear anything lifting really. The ride keeps going. This hat, I believe, is still there. I'm not paying too much attention to that. But what are they doing? Like, what are they going to do here to pull us into the next section, which is going to be the main break and build? So not much. Again, not a big deal. They're just letting it ride, just letting it go, you know? So don't have to overthink things too much. If you've got cool sounds, if you got cool hooks, a good groove, people just want to stay in the moment, you know? You don't have to, not everyone just has like insane ADD or ADHD when they need just these constant barrage of different sounds. So let's move over here, especially when the main things are badass. So here we have the main break and build. I'm just going to do the acronym there, which is MBB. And so let's see what we're doing here in the hook drop and what they were doing. So A section, B section, absolutely. So this is the classic A section, B section. Again, my favorite arrangement example is La Danza by John Summit. Basically, every possible arrangement technique you'd want to know is in that track, but very similar. We have A section vocal, B section sound design. That's exactly what's going on here. You have A section vocal, B section sound design. Again, you can boil A section, B section down to one single word. That's how you know if it's going to be simple. And so there we go, A section CLT. So we're not going to go in the deep in the theory of that. That's just basically saying, is there some kind of lift there? And there was, because we brought in the hat. B section CLT, there is not, okay? But there is a lift from the A section to the B section, which is that ride or elevation. AB edit, so AB edit is the edit between the A section and B section, and there is one there. That's a really important moment because we're switching from one hook to another hook. And so edits right here, they prepare the listener for a change. So if we play that,
my phase rage in my brain breaking chain. Ice in my eyes, fire in my chest, I'm gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill of king and press stress.
but nothing earth shattering, just going from just passing the baton. That's it, you know? And so there we go. We do have that. Punk's Edis ear candy. We don't have Punk's Edis. Punks are just basically ear candy that's structured. We don't need to go deep into it. And the reason why is because this is all like micro production stuff. When you have really good macro elements like they do, you just don't need a lot of micro production. One small thing that they are doing, and it's not that small, it's kind of important, is that they are doing different things in the drum. So for example, here at the 4-bar mark, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right around the halfway point, they have that kind of double or that quad kick thing that is pretty consistent in the track, right? And that kind of double splash hat. You could definitely consider that a punk. Again, I'm not going to break that down too much, but that's just a little thing that they're doing to keep the kind of the beat interesting over time. But you don't need to rely too much on that stuff when you've got just really good big hooks. And they're not doing a bunch of other crazy things. If you want to see a good breakdown of punks, check out, I think, London's on Fire that I have, or what's the other? Or Appetite, potentially. I think London's on Fire, though. That track is just crazy for punks and little micro production. But this is just strong macro production, and that's why it's awesome. So, not to say that micro production isn't cool, too. Like, go listen to London's on Fire. That thing is amazing. But let's get into the main break and build after we check off this. So, not a lot. I guess I'll check it off. And then here we have full development. No, full development is where the full drums come in. Over and above what came in the bass drop, we're getting the same drums as the bass drop, basically. False start entry, yeah, this is tactical stuff too. So the false start is that tiny little bass skip that they do right here.
Do you think you step into an steady domain?
That's a false start. It's extremely minor, but really cool and powerful. But that would be a false start right there. And it's just a false start is where you come in, you don't give them everything. It's just a slight denial of expectation, and then boom, you come back into it. And that's a drop. The main thing is this is it. This is the most important stuff right there. Hooks over groove, badass hooks over a big groove, and then we've got a clean A section, B section, A section defined by vocal, B section defined by sound design, also that vocal texture, and then we're just going right into the bass drop. I'm sorry, right into the main break and build. All right, so what do we do in the main break and build? In the main break and build, we take away what they want, and that's hooks over groove. We take them away, we separate them in some way. Most of the time, that's just a high pass on the drums or just taking away the full drums or the full groove in some way. And so let's see how they transition into the main break and build. Going over here. So there you go, just high passing. But in this case, over and above what came before it was just kick and clap, there was no hat. But here they're keeping the hat going. So slight little increasing energy right there, a little bit of a difference from before. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna do a high pass on this, and then we're gonna do a high pass on the bass, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so. And then they're going back to that spaced vocal over here. So really cool, slowing it down again. So a little callback to that moment earlier. They also have that synth continuing right here. Same thing as before too. I'm just going to copy this over because that bass is starting to open as well. Okay. So here is actually no clap, no clap, but hats. So we will just flip that actually. So over here, it is opposite. So here it is clap, but no hats. Cool. There we go. So just a little bit of a flip. And then here, claps come in as lift. There you go. Lifting the energy a little bit. Claps them. There, okay. So you can hear the synth is growing. So a little bit of tension. That's building tension towards this moment right here, which is going to be where we really kick things up to signal that we're building, right? So this first half of this is going to be the break. We could break the main break and build down into smaller sections, but high level is just two, just like before. You've got your break, and then you've got kind of where you're chilling out, and then you've got your build where you really signal that directional energy. We are going somewhere new, and it's going to be awesome. But here, we're just kind of chilling out, but you can even feel that kind of tension starting to rise to signal that change in direction, which is going to happen right here in a big way. All right, so here we go. There you go. And that's the statement. When those drums come in, that makes the statement that we are switching directions. So I call this a lot of times the turning point, all right? Because from the way you can break down a main break and build is that it's down energy, then up energy. It's this V taper. And so here is the first down move. So when we come out of the drop right here, boom, that's that step down. Now, sometimes what you can do is even in the second 8 bars, you can make another step down. But in this case, they're just kind of keeping it a little bit constant, but just slowly growing the tension. There's not major changes in energy, just a little bit of a lift in energy right here. So a small step up when they bring in that clap, but this is the move. This is the statement, the commitment to the new direction, which is going up for sure. So this is the commitment to the build. And cool. So here we are in the build, and we know what build is. Rep, roll, rise, grow. What's going to happen? We should expect to see some of those elements. So here we have the kind of kick comes in more, and this is like a commitment to build. All right. And so now in the listener's mind, they know there's no turning back. We are going to the build. or we are going to the next drop and it's going to be epic. That's what they're thinking. And then it's just about doubling down on that anticipation. So this is just getting wide open, this guy. So I'm just going to do HP wide open and growing. Okay, so right here, and then it just starts to rep on this guy right here. So if we come in this, and I'm just going to turn loop on just so we can see, we'll just change this to rep, and we'll just pull this out. There we go. All right. Okay, so this just continues to grow. Interesting. Okay, that's kind of cool. So then there's this kind of cool, and plus the delay right there. That's cool. I've never heard that in a track before. That's another cool takeaway. That so I'm going to add that to our little notes up here. That cool rep in main break and build. There you go. So. Okay, you can hear the risers there. So again, rep, roll, rise, grow. We hear the rep, we hear the risers. Do we have the roll? We can hear a kick roll. So I'm just going to put that on its own channel. So a kick roll is just where you just, it's kind of like a snare roll, but you use a kick. So. Okay, so you can hear what is going on. So here we have eighth note kick roll. So actually, I'll just do eighth notes because we already named the channel. And then we have 16th. There you go. It breaks down to 16ths. And then we also have the snare roll kind of coming up here. So this is kind of low pass up. So maybe some of this is the snare roll, but I hear a kick roll in there for sure too. But... And there you go. There's a freaking pipo, right? That we didn't get before, but I still like that move earlier, which is this guy. Hold back on pipo on drop, but full pipo, full payoff, I should say, in pipo 2, I guess, and MBB. Pipo. There we go. That's a little bit more accurate. Here we go. Boom. Okay, and then we're going to get into the biggest moment, which it's what the track is all about. So let's see. In the main break and build, what are they doing? Are they transitioning? How are they transitioning? So they're going into a high pass. So we'll just check that off. Strip is where you just had kick, bass, hook, typically. You can have other things too, but it's like the main things are kick, bass, and hook. And then cliff dive is where you just have no groove. You're going into atmosphere or vocals. Here, they're just going into a high pass. They don't have the clap, though. They lifted the clap in the second. V-taper, down then up. Yep, they're stepping down, of course. I mean, you kind of have to. And then it just kind of slowly goes up. This is kind of almost like, I would say like this. You go down, and then a little up, and then a big up, because that's the turning point or the commitment moment, and then another big up, right? So that's kind of how I'd break that down. Lowest to highest, yes. Down energy, yeah, they do. They step down once, so step down once. And then turning point, yes, they do. This is the commitment with drums at halfway. So cool. Basement, sure. Yep. Up energy. Yep, lots of up energy, rep, roll, rise, grow. We already looked at that. Pipo or momentum, absolutely, massive one. Big pipo into HT2. And especially interesting because there was no pipo, there was no payoff, I should say, in break one. Okay, elevation over break one, absolutely. Even that kind of payoff moment itself is an elevation, but the extension of the build into 16 bars, like that's usually the case. There's almost always an elevation in so many different ways. It's just longer, it's just bigger, it's just more dramatic and exciting. So absolutely no payoff extensions, meaning that the drop lands on time, right? So there's no carrying over 2 bars, 1 bar, 4 bar, nothing like that. It's just the Amazon pattern package is delivered on time. And so that kind of internal time zone that the listener's in the song, they say in that time zone rather than having to change time zone and deal with some kind of lag. Okay, so now we're getting into hook drop 2, and so we deliver on time, but once again, it's all about hooks over groove. Now, so let's check that out and see what else they are doing. So here we go.
I see my eyes fire and my chest are gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill to kill your dress.
Okay, this is awesome. Again, it reminds me of the move in Diet Coke, but so many tracks do this, but it's just a huge moment where it's just kick bass wide open. So yeah, just kick bass, but the bass is just wide open. So wide open. And then this is going to go for 8 bars. And then here at the halfway, they just lift a little bit with the tops. Again, after the 4 kicks here. So again, this is kind of a consistent thing that they're doing. I call that punks. And so they have those 4 kicks, but those 4 kicks almost act like a trigger for when these hats come in. They're motivated. The tops coming in are motivated by those 4 kicks. Check it out. Watch. It's not like the tops just come in, right? There's something that happens that kind of brings them in or motivates them. Okay, cool. And then right here, this is kind of, so this is LP down. So I call this whole thing, this is a couple things. This is a strip. So strip is just usually kick bass. It's sometimes a hook, but in this case, the bass of the hook. Another thing I call this is a very big false start. We talked about that earlier. Like this little move back here is a false start. Because there's when you get that kick, no bass, and then everything comes back in, that's a false start. You're not getting everything. Here, you're not getting everything. So it's very similar, but it's just way more dramatic. But with a false start, typically you're trying to get some kind of recovery. Like what is the thing that's going to bring everything in? And this low pass is starting to signal that something's going to happen. This is kind of the recovery of what's going to kick everything else coming back in. So right there, and then we get that little kind of glitch on the kick again. Boom. And so that is cool. I'm going to just kind of mark this yellow. And same with earlier. So if I come back earlier, it's just like those moments was really cool. So we'll just paste that right there. Awesome. And so here, everything comes back in. So we're going to do full drums. So before a strip, now we're lifting with the full drums and we're going into the vocal. Super cool. So check this out. So before there was no payoff right here. And then you go into vocal. Here it's the reverse. And so we're going to write that down. That's really cool because no vox in first 8. I'm going to write in MBB little, or I'm sorry, HC2 little a for the first 8 bars. So here we go. Super cool. So here we have the full vocal, and then we go into the next 8 bars where there's no vocal. And so if you're going to play the full vocal over this guy, that would probably feel a little bit much. So we duplicate this. It was also take away from the bass, but just feel this.
I see my eyes fire and my chest are gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill to kill your dress. You think you're stepping to an steady domain, pain, my veins rage and my brain breaking chain.
See that's a little bit too much. It doesn't give you the feeling of a payoff because it's just more of the same. It's just more vocal and then, okay, now we just have a groove under it. There's nothing that's set up in a way to make this really dramatic. But having that full vocal right there going into that just wide open bass with just the kick, that's a big moment. And then, so that goes for 8 bars. And then finally we get the vocal over here. And so that is really cool. So, all right.
You think you're stepping to an steady domain, pain, my veins rage and my brain breaking chain. I see my eyes fire and my chest are gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill to kill your dress. You think you're stepping to an steady domain, pain, my veins rage and my brain breaking chain. I see my eyes fire and my chest are gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill to kill your dress. You think you're stepping to an steady.
Cool. And then we're coming over here, but what we're doing is we're kind of just starting to mash together the structure that happened before. So the A section, B section before was clean vocal, clean sound design, but guess what? The vocal's now been pushed back 8 bars. So here we're still going to get 16 bars of vocal, but we're going to keep to the structure of what happened before, where the synth comes in after 16 bars. So we're going to take the synth and come it over here. So now we've got the synth and the vocal playing together for the first time, which is really probably the biggest climax of the track. So here in the last 8 bars, we get this massive strip drop with the wide open bass, and we're getting the vocal to play together with the synth in full, both of them in full, for the first time. And so 2 huge payoffs for the track, where these 2 hooks finally come together after this just insane moment right here. So extremely well done production here. And so let's keep playing.
You think you step into an steady domain, pain in my veins, rage in my brain, breaking chain. I see my eyes fly, my chest are gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill to really press stress. You think you step into an steady domain, pain in my veins, rage in my brain, breaking chain. I see my eyes fly, my chest are gonna rest. Best believe I'm blessed with the skill to really press stress.
And then, of course, here, now that the vocals played for 16 bars, we're done. Okay, but here, we get the hat lift. So that's right there. That's structurally different than what came before, because we got the hat lift with the vocal right here. But you know, like, the hat lift played with that second vocal. So here, when that second vocal comes in, we're getting that lift. And also, if we kind of treat this first 8 bars as kind of like an isolated section, then if this is the start of the drop, we're still getting that hat lift in the second 8 bars. But then the vocal goes away after 16, because after 16, too much. Synth still keeps going, but then we're getting the vocal texture, and we're getting the ride lift, which is kind of what happens over here as well. So when that texture and the synth come together, we get the ride lift. So, man, just really good arrangement. Like, yeah. Cool, and then just groove on the out. So, all right, so let's just get this guy over here, and we'll just do outro. All right, man, what a cool track. Like, cool sound is definitely a sound that's in the meta, but this is probably one of my favorite arrangements that I've broken down. I would say this year, but this year is only a month long. But probably I would say within the last year that I can think of. Very cool. So if we come down now to HT2, so hooks over groove. HT1 equals HT2 plus or minus. A little bit of things shifting around, but fundamentally the same structure. We've got 16 bars of vocal, 16 bars of the sound design. We still have the hat lifts. We still have the ride lifts. The only thing that's different is that first 8 bars of the wide open bass just pushes things back a little bit. A section, B section breaks down a little bit, but those components of the A section, B section are still there. So I'll mark that off with just a little bit of an asterisk. Again, that first 8 bars just push things back a little bit. A section, B section, CLD. Again, I'll just put little asterisks on here, because those things that were happening back there, they're still happening. We're still getting the lifts, the hat lift, still getting the ride lift. AB edit? Not really, because again, I mean, if you want to consider that the AB edit, but I'm just going to put asterisks on all these things, because these are just slightly complicated by that first 8 bars, but very cool. Punks edits elevation over HG1, absolutely. So how does it lift? Well, that first 8 bars again. That thing is amazing. Front loading, not really. Punks edits, cool. And then outro, and he's just doing groove. But that's it. So if we, like, super cool. Of course, you can download the MIDI map, but I just want to just cover these guys again. The things that I love here, those first 4 bars on in terms of just the call response, the nested call response. So call response between the phrase and then the bass kind of flourish, and then the call response on the bass itself. We got those 4 kicks right here, and then we have that edit right there. So this whole thing, well, this is now 8 bars, but this whole thing is just a really good breakdown of phrasing. And then I love the idea of just fragmenting the vocal over time and then bringing it together as a kind of payoff in and of itself, going into the break with the full vocal, and then finally the vocal comes over the groove in hook drop 1. So that is just really cool. Holding back on the piepo right here, that's so cool, because then you get that vocal payoff, the hook payoff into the drop. So I just got to play that again. And that little false start with the kick, just so cool. And then still leveraging that idea at the end, but flipping it, completely flipping it. So giving the ultimate pipo, the ultimate payoff, building energy, cut, deliver the entire vocal, all, what is it? Yeah, 4 bars of it. And then going into that drop here with without the vocal, but a different payoff, which is going to be that wide open kind of bass and the strip. And so getting away with the full vocal payoff, because here it's just going to be kick bass, and then just going back into the vocal and all that. That's so cool, that little flip right there. And then the cool rep in the main break and build, just kind of a little minor note, but this is something that I've never come across before, which is like you start with a vocal, rep a little piece of it, and then just have a little bit of the end phrase as well. But the delay on there is what makes this thing feel so chaotic and builds additional tension, you know? So like the rep itself builds tension, but just kind of like chaotic chopping of having a piece of the vocal, repping a piece of the vocal, having the end of it, plus the delay just creates this extra level of chaos. So really cool. And you know, one of the things you want to do when you're going into the break into a drop is this high level contrast. So we talked about rep, roll, rise, grow. Those are definitely things that like build tension. Another kind of thing you could think about is high level contrast. And probably one of the highest level contrast between breaks and drops is chaos and order. So here we have this chaos right here. Watch. And then we drop into almost perfect order with just the kick and the bass right here. So again, a lot of cool things to take away from this track. Not only is it super simple in its structure, we've got a big hook, big groove, simple story, but even within those simple, within the simple story, within the HD2 formula, there's still some really cool creative things that make this track really unique and special, and definitely something that you can do in your own tracks in your own unique way. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any insights about this track down below. If you have any questions, again, you can download the MIDI map that's coming with the glitch rack in here too, and I will see you in the next breakdown. Peace.